All right, guys, so we have our listings view all set, but of course it's just static HTML markup. We want we want these listings to come from the database, and we want to be able to add them through the admin area. But before we do that, we need to set up a database. Okay, so we're going to use Postgres, which is a very powerful relational database. It pairs very well with Django. If you've used MySQL or even like Microsoft SQL Server, very similar. They're all SQL or relational databases that use structured query language. Although with Django, we don't have to write raw SQL queries. We have a higher level ORM to deal with fetching data, inserting data, and so on. All right, so it makes it much easier. Now, as far as installing Postgres locally, it's a little different on Windows and Mac. What I would suggest if you're on Windows is to go to postgresql.org, go to download, click on Windows, and download the graphical installer, okay, and just go through that. I'm using version 10, so that's what I would suggest. If you want to use 9.6, that's fine. If there's a later version, later stable version, you can probably get away with that as well, so it's up to you. And if you've installed Postgres before and you know how to do it, if you have a different way of doing it, by all means, as long as you have Postgres on your system, then that's all we need. Okay, so on a Mac, I would suggest using Postgres app at postgresapp.com. This just makes things a little bit easier. It gives you a little interface to work with. So we're going to go ahead and click download here, and this is postgresapp.com. And before I actually install this, I just want to also mention another tool called PgAdmin. And this gives you a graphical user interface to deal with your databases and can be very helpful, especially if you're not that comfortable with the terminal, if you want to look at your tables and your data, stuff like that. So we'll also get that installed, and this is available on Windows and Mac. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and let's actually download this too. So I'm going to go to download. Okay, if you're on Windows, you want to click here, but I'm on a Mac, so I'm going to click here, latest version. Wait, was that? Yeah, that's the latest version. I'm going to get the DMG. On Windows, it'll be an exe. All right, so now let's install Postgres app. So I'm going to open up that file that I downloaded. All right, so I'm just going to drag this Postgres over to my applications folder. And I have had this installed on this machine before, so there might be some very subtle differences than what you see, but I'll explain that. All right, so once that's in the applications folder, if nothing happens, just open it up from within the applications folder. So we'll go ahead and double click Postgres. You can close this up. And it should just ask us if we want to open it. So we'll go ahead and click open. And there we go. Now you probably, if you haven't installed this before, you probably won't see these three databases here, and you'll probably see something that says initialize. So just go ahead and click that initialize, and then you should see these. Okay, and this is your server settings, which includes your port number, the default Postgres port, data directory, config file. If you want to, edit any of those or whatever, you can go into there. So what I'm going to do now is double click on Postgres, and it's going to open up a terminal with, inside of our Postgres shell. So we need to create a new database. Now, as far as users, I'm going to use the Postgres user. Okay, you'll always have this root Postgres user, and I wouldn't use this in deployment, but in development, I think it's fine to use. So we're just going to use that. But we want to give the Postgres user a password. So what we want to do is \password, and then the username, which is Postgres. Okay, and then we just want to enter a password. Okay, now we want to create a new database. So I'm going to say create database, and I'm going to call this btredb, and I'm just going to do owner. I'm going to specify that the owner should be the Postgres user. Okay, and then we want to put a semicolon at the end and run that, and we get create the database. Okay, now if we do a \L, which is a list databases, you'll see btredb and the owner of Postgres. Okay, so we should be good with that. So now we can exit this by doing a \Q. And now for PgAdmin, let's take care of that. So I'm going to go ahead and close this up. So just remember, we have a database of BTREDB, and the owner is Postgres. So now I'm going to just keep this running. We can close this up, but it's still running. You should actually see a little elephant icon in your top right if you're on a Mac. So for PgAdmin, let's see, where is it? Let's open that up. And we'll just agree. Okay, so what we want to do is we want to move this. I mean, we can run it from here, but I'm going to move it to my applications folder. So I'm going to just open a new Finder and go to my applications, which is right here. Okay, we'll bring that over. Because if you run it from here and then you eject it, it's not going to run anymore. It's not going to be available. All right, so now that that is in our applications, let's close this up and let's run PG4 or PgAdmin 4. And we'll get this message. We just want to say open. It's going to start the program. This should also create a little icon up in the top right. And now this is going to run in the browser. Okay, it's a browser-based tool. And over here on the left under servers, you'll see that there's nothing here. Now, I believe on Windows, if you install Postgres and then you install PgAdmin and you open it up, you'll see it'll just kind of create a server with your current databases. And if you want, you can create the database that we just created, the BTREDB, from here. Okay, because you can create databases from here. If nothing is here, then just simply say create server and give it a name. I'm going to call mine DB server, and go to connection, and you want to specify that this is your local host connection, and then your username Postgres and whatever password you used for Postgres. Okay, which we just did in the terminal. So let's say save. And now if I go to DB server under databases, you'll see our BTREDB database, along with the other two, the default bit databases. But this is the one that we're going to be using. Okay, so I think everything should be configured correctly. Let me just check out the properties here. So why is that given? What's this? Just a spell check thing or something? The owner is Postgres. So definition, security. Now, I think we might have to add privileges here. Let's see. Let me just say Postgres privileges. Okay, so we probably want to do this, or we might get some restrictions. So I'm going to choose the Postgres user and say all. And that should be good. Grantor Postgres. I'm not sure if we need to do this since we're using the Postgres user, but I'm just going to do it anyways and just say save. All right, so we should be all set now, guys. In the next video, we're going to start to configure Django to use Postgres, because right now it's configured to use SQLite. So we're going to do that, and then we'll move on to migrations, and we'll start really getting into like our models and stuff like that. All right, so I'll see you in the next video.